Given our work in Uzbekistan, when I go home or go back to the UK or in Europe, I'm often asked, how do you see the progress of the country? Is it really happening? We hear things are on the move. What's going on? What's my opinion? And my response is quite simple. I take these normally capital market stakeholders or enthusiasts, I take them on a short journey. And the starting point of that journey is December 2016, with President Mirziyoyev coming into office, and the very bold and ambitious reforms he quickly initiated. And what's happened since then is extraordinary, or I explain it through the lens of the changing profile, of capital and investors coming in. You saw during the latter part of that decade the acceleration of development bank capital coming into the market, and the big names investing heavily. But then you start to see the strategic and the sovereign capital coming in, organizations like Aquapower. I checked before this, they have $15 billion invested in the country within their portfolio. So it's a phenomenal figure, supporting the country's clean energy goals. Debt investors have followed hard on their heels. $12 billion worth of Uzbek debt now listed on the LSE, and I think it's over $3.5 billion in the last 6 months. Huge interest from that universe of investors. And then, of course, it's only a matter of time before the private equity style investors get engaged with the country, and you don't need to look much further than companies like Zoom or Korzinka, who have both attracted this type of equity recently. Zoom, as we all know, achieving unicorn status. Korzinka very recently securing $110 million of equity financing from international investors. Both of these companies presenting highly compelling growth profiles to global investors. So in just over 7 years, the country's profile has evolved rapidly from development of global public equity markets, and a presidential decree which is lining up a raft of privatizations over the next 18 months will change that. Now, we produced, apologies for a little bit of self-promotion, but we produced a report which has been the partnership report for the conference, and it talks about reform in action. And I think what I've just outlined is a demonstration of this country's reform in action. There's absolutely no question about it. And at the heart of that action is the National Investment Fund of Uzbekistan, UZNIF, that stands to give investors access to the country and its highly compelling investment dynamics. So, without further ado, it's time to introduce the star of today's show, Marius Dan, to take us through the background to the fund and why global investors should be watching it very closely. Marius.
Thank you, Charlie, and hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Marius Dan. I'm Chief Executive Officer for Central Asia for Templeton Global Investments, part of Franklin Templeton. We are the trustee and fund manager of the National Investment Fund of Uzbekistan. Franklin Templeton is a global asset management firm. We have $1.6 trillion under management, and as part of the private markets group, we have experience in managing this type of vehicles, national investment funds. I've been part of the team that successfully managed and transformed the National Investment Fund in Romania. As Charlie mentioned, I've also been coming here for quite a long time, since 2018, and I've been nothing short of amazed of the transformation of the country, of the reform process, and one of the testaments of that reform is the establishment of the National Investment Fund of Uzbekistan. The fund was launched earlier this year on the 1st of May. We, as Franklin Templeton, have opened an office in Tashkent in April. We've hired a local team. We've been incredibly pleased with the talent that we were able to source on the ground. We've also brought colleagues from outside of Uzbekistan, from London, move to Uzbekistan and to support the the fund comprises of 18 minority stakes of 20 to 40 on three pillars. One, companies and our work individual company creating a can improve the operations, the efficiency, accelerate this process alongside enterprises. We have my team as well as independent directors sitting on the boards of assessment, and I've been impressed with the quality boards, which is testament to the fact that this process has been fully independent. Governance is great, but the success of it, to add more independent board members, more expertise from our team as a much quicker transformation of the state-owned companies. Investment Fund of Uzbekistan in the first half of next year. We've already started that process, even though we've been only managing the fund since first equity advisors already. We're in the process of hiring legal advisors, and then hopefully within the next 3-4 weeks, so that we can accelerate local listing and an international listing at the same time. Investment banks, but it should really pave the way. There hasn't been a large IP working on that process. We are working on our process to the banking sector, to the energy sector, infrastructure. Uzbekistan should really be a one-stop shop for institutional investors. The Navoy are two very large IPOs that will macroeconomic environment in Uzbekistan about the reform process in the country, and those are very powerful tools to really attract institutional investors in Uzbekistan. The slide that you see on screen is really meant to give you an idea of the largest companies in our portfolio. We have Uzbekistan Airways, we have the railway infrastructure company, the gas distribution and supply company, the national electricity transportation company, Uzbekistan Airports, telecom, the electricity distribution and supply in the country, Uzbek Hidroenergo, thermal power plants, and then Halkbank. In addition to Halkbank, we also have The fund has been independently valued at 1.6 been done by KPMG and Deloitte. The companies are growing very fast. If you look at the airport traffic, banks are growing really fast, so that will have an impact, a positive impact. It also shows you the future IPOs, because as part of the last pillar, a calendar of listings with the government, and I've been trying to have this in the fund that I managed in Romania for 15 years. Testament to the IPO of the fund. We will continue to focus on the IPOs. Investable universe of Uzbekistan should grow very, very happy to be in Uzbekistan, and I have the honor National Investment Fund on behalf of Franklin Templeton and but this is just a brief overview of the fund.
Certainly get a lot of bankers extremely excited about the opportunities. I just want to start, Neil, with you, if I may. Development such as UZNIF and their interconnectivity with DF
capital and private equity funds, and that they're coming soon. I think at the moment Uzbekistan is a country of gaps and opportunities. Now, in the context of UZNIF, we're working, for example, on legislative framework for venture capital and private equity. Investment law, which we presented to the president yesterday, over $1 billion in commitments every year. But it's still an economy that's converting those gaps into opportunities as well. In the electricity sector, IFIs have helped the government to rapidly increase the amount of energy that's produced here, particularly renewable energy population. But the nature of those investors is rather the UZNIF is designed to attract. So UZNIF is also packaging it as an opportunity. While Uzbekistan has been on attracting PPP and to some extent restricted perhaps on PPPs, it's been faster than we expected. And UZNIF, I think, builds that bridge. DFIs can provide technical assistance, capacity building and advisory services, both at the fund level and at the underlying assets level. And we have some crossover with a list of 8 UZNIF fund with Novaya Azod. Can also act as bridge builders, connecting UZNIF and private sector partners to mobilize additional capital. Scalable and aligned with international standards. I think we're very firmly having the same page about the future of the underlying assets. So a new class of foreign direct investor, overs between UZNIF and the DFIs. Quite how that will work out, we very much started. Thank you.
Thank you. And background role that DFIs play in driving legislation, to enable to pave the way, so to speak. Just you're as a very long-standing and experienced banker. Transaction which has caught the attention of many. Self-recognized Uzbekistan early on and were quick to see investment opportunities versus others in Central Asia. And
good afternoon. The attractions, I think, go back to some of your entry comments at the beginning, which is that the transformation that has been going in Uzbekistan stands out across Central Asia. Demographic benefit that comes from growth. It is the transformation that's going on underneath. 2 days, the type of growth rates which investment for outside investors makes it stand out as an economy which is different from an investment perspective. The sovereign funds, the structural reforms which are under structural changes that are being put in place, the embracing the government privatization mandate changes the dynamic of the way that, and with the Oman Investment Bank, which is market region as a sort of specialist investment banking business, the funds is very much trying to get tied into the growth. And, you know, clearly on one end you've got the fundamental growth in the tech economy.
very appropriate. Clearly music to their ears. We're involved in the STJ advisors were closely involved in the Hydra. I think really helped put the country model. See from your perspective and that over the past few years.
Well, I think it's a very good fund and Korea fund in the funds are there is because they is updated. We were working advising the company on that, and actually happened. The phone started to ring, and we had these fund managers. Actually happened. The phone started to ring, and we had these fund managers. I'm an existing holder of Fundle. I want to place an order to an existing holder of Fundle. I want to place an order to the company. That is a very unusual thing to was doing to enhance the value of the company, and ultimately hire Bucharest Stock Exchange that traded $10 million a day before it happened. So what that says is that on what fund managers are willing to look at if it gives them access. And that's what to me is very exciting. Access, and that's what to me is very exciting about this. I mean, we've all been here. Opportunities that are being developed in this country, and quick exposure to a very broad spectrum of that. So uncertainties that are taking place in the world today. Uncertainties that are taking place in the world today. If Uzbekistan, it seems a terrific vehicle for that.
Veronica, just coming to, and when I was researching having a buy, saying that one of its, I think sometimes the term sustainable is maybe a little bit hacked. Is this in a world where globalization in a world where globalization is arguably, does USNIF offer a compelling alternative?
Well, and thank you for inviting me to share my thoughts panel. As you rightly mentioned, as our activities, KfW banking group is by the Republic of Germany and its states. That allows us to refinance ourselves at the best possible conditions and partners in the interest rates. So over the public and private sector investments in developed subsidiaries and business units in the bank, so we, German government and the European Union, and on the other half we European and German companies, and also by the private sector in the KfW has been supporting Uzbekistan, and its reforms have been undergone in the past year, so we look for. And USNIF is one important element of these reforms and international markets, attaining strategic oversight, but they need to be because to invest to attract long-term investment. Uzbekistan's growing population comes with seeing revenues for the state budget, and at the same time the state from subsidized fiscal space to invest in the modern required to finance social and inclusive efficiency of the SOEs, and also modernizing the contribute to increasing the valuation of the investors as opposed to speculative investors. So it's required, so the Uzbek government, the development, so they will need to be borne by the private sector, and what investments in some sectors such as infrastructure investments are at the same time being made, and this sweet spot is, so while we support from the KfW Development Bank, sector development and mobilization of the project investments and exports of Germany in the country. And when we look at USNIF's portfolios, because it wasn't mentioned before, but to improve the energy efficient and climate friendly way, so by which likes my perfume probably, and at the same time if Usuftaminot or other sustainable operation of the infrastructure, which is very often there are some similar, and supporting them not only to prices but also to strengthen their institutional management and USNIF's utilities and energy portfolio, KfW, the share of 54% of renewable energies by has been investing in the construction of solar and battery storage capacities, and the KfW modernization and extension of electricity transmission in the long term. So I think it's yes, we remain a strong supporter of the Uzbekistan and look forward also to align form part of USNIF's portfolio.
Very good. You mentioned is the development of the domestic capital markets and the importance of that, and you know, it's time to talk Turkey, Alexei. This company, I'm going to turn to Alexei now, and I'm going to ask him and drive in.
Thank you, Charlie. That's indeed a very interesting question. Kiev VW did, and 1918, it was mostly transactional banking. Reforms and opening of Uzbekistan capital market businesses, bringing tremendous over the last few years, over 15 years, and other CIS markets. Uzbekistan is which is commendable, and learn from to attract long-term equity, debt, and international bank is one of the is through strong governance. State asset management through the national step in that direction. It's clear lines of accountability. What investors do value is a certain regulatory change erode confidence, and done so by signaling long-term policy, maintaining open dialogue with investors. Its economic reforms are communicated clearly and well in advance. The most important factors in the development of local capital markets. Buffer against external shocks. Uzbekistan should investors and facilitate and we want to see more progress. Like the new capital market laws have been in the really Uzbekistan. Another offering investors currency hedging insurance would also development of here who are actively involved to do more with onshore. This process indeed will. And the last but not least, proactive engagement is channel help the globally. So in conclusion, by embracing best practices from other, transparency, policy stability, attract long-term investors and also build a reputation as a reliable. This journey is not without its challenges and sustained effort.
Very well. Be stable, consistent, no shock. Is very obvious. Of the development of the local. You feel it is that So the capital markets is also getting this win. The upside. Can you touch on that?
It's well as I expected. Markets will the local capital work already. It was alluded to be updated. That's very true. With the Ministry of Economy, change some of the existing legislation as UZNIF over the next 3 to 4 months. Because secondly, I think into the country, because the dual list years of 10 years need to list local Hidroelectrica. This was a very worked on in Romania 2012, and from loss 1.5 billion in net. You know, we need a dual listing. It's successful. The government a local listing, which market very aggressively so that we leave earned. And in the end, we managed market, so we sold our entire stake, close to $8 billion. Retail market, because about 30 to 40,000 in Romania. When we did the hydro investors a small discount to the, it led to 100,000 people. And once you have those retail with institutional investors, they, as Neil said, a virtuous started with this. And for the local listing, in order to investors to participate in the IPO, institutional pricing. So I think of Navoi with constant and proactive investment in Tashkent in October, roadshows in the US, London. Again, we want to market Uzbekistan, educate investors, going to spend any time discussing about GDP structure, the revenue, about the potential of each individual company. The fund that we've managed has generated a tenfold in dollars of capital back to investors, and we have nothing but support. There's a huge reform agenda, hugely for investors at the time of the IPO effort that we're going to do in the portfolio companies is really to state-owned companies that we have should become a contributor to the state budget. Infrastructure will be used to improve the life of the city across the board. It's not the case here. That's one important point. Second, support 3 to 4% of GDP from the companies, from the state-owned companies to the state budget, and ability to do a lot more.
Very good. You are roadshowing. When you're in front of them, you're going straight into the dynamics of the. There is currently no way to play the Uzbekistan equity markets. We have the market. UZNIF, we're all the international markets with some very, very big issuance, and Alex with some very, very big issuance, and Alex as senior EM guys who understand to Uzbekistan about what it's got to get right with two such billions to make sure these pathfinders are successful. David, maybe you.
So in a lot of ways, it's not in Uzbekistan stock. what the government's plans or thoughts are on this, but because of the fact it's kind of a standalone. On the other hand, so if you are a frontier markets investor and you're buying the reform program and the regulated utility, et cetera, to be predictable in terms of its, but very different investment propositions if you think about for each, Charlie.
Thank you, Alex. Any?
The assimilation effect that Eugene was talking about, that there is already in the company, with Marius across a range of us coming through the private sector before you get it coming through the SOE. And I think the second thing is and in both cases it has become critical because the lack of familiarity with engagement, talking about the macro story that is actually going on here to get people familiar.
I'm actually going to come back to well, I'm not. I'm a PR man from Scotland, but I say I'm an international process. I've got comfortable with the investment dynamics of the putting this or looking hard to put this in my portfolio.
UZNIF and owning Uzbekistan, besides the exciting macro swing sectors, under-penetrated sectors in Uzbekistan, modern profile, given the valuation of the UZNIF production perspective, we've done everything that lying companies through our efforts. We're also keen in holder in the fund, but also to the future IPO. Continue to do that with UZNIF, but want to know what they own, and I think the established
rather, and its citizens, and importantly, it's going to be a win for today. Thank you.